Hi, I'm Mike Stubler with Draper Triangle Ventures and Magarek Ventures. I'm the chairman of the PVCA. My pleasure to welcome everybody here. This is our 27th annual PVCA award event. Kelly and I were just talking. It was interesting because we had a PVCA event right middle of March in 2020, right when COVID came out, and people were scared to come out. And there was about 20 of us in the room. So this is nice to see a full room of people again. There are too many to name, but if you look at page 8 of the program, you can look back at the past winners of this, from the PVCA. It's a pretty distinguished list, and tonight, in a dramatic way, we're going to add, 3 more people to the list. This is a historic night for PVCA in some respects, in that this is the first time that all of our winners are women. So congratulations. Congratulations, ladies. It's a clean sweep for the ladies. I think, guys, we got to pick up our game. So on behalf of the PVCA executive leadership team, Kelly Shako, our president, Mike Matizek, treasurer, Jeremy Garvey, chairman emeritus, Joe Slezak, secretary, and Adam Wicks, chairman of the Emerging Leadership Board. Thank you for joining us tonight for this special celebration. So Kelly asked me just to say a couple words about about the PVCA from the time that I've been around. She's not going to like this, but I'm going to do it anyway. So it was interesting. I've been on the PVCA board for 17 years. I actually had to look at my LinkedIn profile to see how long it's been. But there's so much has changed in Pittsburgh over that time, and also with this organization. People have come and gone. And the one constant's really been Kelly. And she's done so much for the organization and the entrepreneurial community here. And like many nonprofits, small nonprofits, we had a couple of dark days during the pandemic. There's no sponsorship budgets, couldn't do events like this. And so, like any good entrepreneur, Kelly figured it out, got us here. So thank you, Kelly. So also like to recognize our board. They're listed on page 7, but we have the full board of the PVCA and also our Emerging Leadership Board. So if any of you folks would like to stand or raise your hands and get acknowledged, that would be terrific, because you guys have all been terrific. Also, I'd like to thank all of our annual sponsors. You can see their logos have been scrolling across the various boards, but without those folks, this organization would have a tough time. I also want to recognize that we had sponsors for tonight's event, and want to recognize their generosity on behalf of the PVCA and the winners. BDO USA, Blue Tree Venture Fund 1, Buchanan, Ingersoll and Rooney, Denton's Cohen and Grigsby, Donnelly Financial Solutions, Govenda, Innovation Works, Insperity, the Next Act Fund. So please give them a round of applause as well. So we're going to start off the evening with dinner. We'll probably start the programming, probably when dessert's being served. And tonight we're lucky to have Sister Linda from the Holy Family Institute here today. And so she's going to say a prayer before we start dinner.
Thank you and good evening. I'm honored to be here this evening to say a few words and then to offer grace before we have dinner. And I did some research on this organization, and yes, the first time to have 3 women win this award. So it made sense to have a woman lead us in prayer. Although I did do a little bit of research too and find that I'm standing before private equity investors. And your goal in life is to generate wealth. And my goal in life is to take this vow of poverty and lead it. So it's a bit ironic that I'm here. But I also understand that venture capitalists are often disruptors and innovators. And you know, that's true for nuns, too. Our aim in life, yeah, we do, I think. Our aim is to disrupt the cycle of poverty and develop innovative solutions so that youth in low-income and marginalized communities have access to a quality education and the support they need to go to college or to have a career. At Holy Family Institute, we also take major risks, such as providing shelter services to unaccompanied children from Central America, Afghanistan, and now we've been asked to take in kids from the Ukraine who have been displaced from their homeland. But in order to provide these services, we need to find those people with wealth who are willing to risk and invest, perhaps even just a fraction of their wealth, to achieve a massive return of social good. So with this in mind, I invite you to pray with me. First and foremost, for all children. Heavenly God, we pray for those children for whom we are responsible through our family ties, sons, daughters, grandchildren, nieces, and nephews. We pray we will love and care for them so they will enjoy the fruits of all life has to offer. We pray too for all children without family ties, that they will find someone on their journey in life who will be the presence of God's goodness, who will invest in them so they do not journey alone. And let us pray for an end to the war in Ukraine and for all those who are graciously taking in the millions of refugees who have lost everything. And Heavenly God, we thank you for the gifts of this life, that for which we have earned, and for those gifts freely given. We thank you for tonight's celebration, our wonderful awardees, and the opportunity to share good food and good company. Amen. Oh, by the way, I was told to mention that if you do pay taxes, and you would prefer not to give them to Harrisburg, you can donate them and get a 90% credit if you give them to an educational organization. So if you want some more information, you can talk to Mike Sexauer, who is with me, who knows how that works, but helps to provide services to children in need. Thank you.
Thanks, Sister Linda. That was awesome. So please enjoy your dinner, have fun, and we will get the show started probably around when dessert's being served. So thank you. Hopefully everybody enjoyed their dinner. They just served dessert, so please, continue with that. And without further ado, we want to get the program rolling as we, honor these three terrific entrepreneurial women tonight. I'd like to bring our first presenter to the stage, Mike Matizek, who will co-introduce tonight's first award winner with the 2022 Impact Award to Babs Carrier, who's been a fixture in the startup community in Pittsburgh for a long time, as an entrepreneur, coach, mentor, teacher, and published author. Mike?
Let's see. I don't have a script. Babs isn't here, so we get to talk about her. Does anybody have stories they want to share? Actually, there are a few things like parties that I heard rumors about that I was never a part of that I heard were really significant parties. But I'm going to talk to you about 20 years of impact in a very short period of time. 4 or 5 hours, we should cover everything Babs has done that deserves this award. But anyway, so I met Babs 20 years ago, or nearly 20 years ago, when she had started an organization called Launch Site. And I'm sure you can read in your program all of the wonderful accomplishments Babs has had. I'm actually only going to touch on a couple of them. One of which was launch site. Two glasses of wine, I promise. That's all it was. Anyway, so Launch Site was an innovative investment model 20 years ago that was successful then and is even more successful now. And I bring that up to you because she's sailing in the Bahamas, as you can see, on her sailboat. And based on some recent exits of her portfolio, she might have a bigger sailboat soon. So we're all happy about that as well. But when I really got to know her was committing to investing in a startup that she was leading. I told her I would tell all these terrible stories, but she said, that's fine, but I won't do it. Anyway, so her work with some of the startups, we invested in one of them, and then some projects that she worked on led her to really understand that she could impact many, many more individuals and entrepreneurs than just leading a few companies. So some of you may know that she taught benchtop to bedside at Pitt, and she was a founding member of Project Olympus at CMU, where she was helping faculty entrepreneurs, and we worked together during that period of time. So this journey that she had, she could never be stopped. And if anybody in this audience knows Babs, you know that she was always doing 100 things at the same time and doing all of them very well. Bringing that forward, she did her time with Project Olympus and really did a wonderful job there. And then she moved on to what is going to become her crowning jewel. And we're going to invite Rhonda up from the University of Pittsburgh, who has to fill her really, really big shoes, to talk to you about her crowning achievement. Rhonda?
Hopefully you can see me over this challenge of being vertically challenged and all. Thank you, Mike. I've known Babs probably about the same length of time as you. When she started Launch Site, I was in the bioinformatics space, and so I've known of Babs for many, many years. But our lives didn't really intersect until about 7 years ago when I stepped into the University of Pittsburgh as an entrepreneur in residence, and really worked with her in a lot of different ways as she grew the programming at Pitt for student innovation and entrepreneurship. And, we can talk, like Mike said, we could talk for hours about her, but we have other lovely ladies that we want you to hear about tonight. But, as Mike had alluded to, one of the things that was really important to Babs was being able to have a huge impact as an individual. And, she really found her place at the University of Pittsburgh to do that. And I could talk a lot about the students that she worked with and kind of tell you the stories from my point of view. But I actually reached out to some of those students and asked them to share with me. They knew that she was being honored tonight and for an impact award. And I said, what would you want this audience to know about Babs? So if you'll indulge me just a moment, I am going to read some of the words from their point of view. And so there are a lot of different things that have been really important to the University of Pittsburgh, by the way, in the role that Babs brought. And it's been about giving opportunities to students across the board to step into something that may be very unfamiliar to them, and that's this concept of innovation and entrepreneurship. And one of the teams that is actually a current team of ours at Pitt, who we got to know last year, but is still working with us, said, I could talk a lot about the programs, but I really want to tell you a story about how a simple and caring action of hers really changed this person's life. And so this is his words. Following the 2019 Big Idea Center kickoff, which was sort of our first thing that is done every year just to bring students in and kind of learn about this thing called innovation and entrepreneurship, I was in line to introduce myself to Babs. And in front of me was another energized student who also wanted to rub elbows and introduce himself to this wonderful woman, Babs. And while speaking with that student, Babs caringly noticed me waiting to speak with her and brought me into their conversation. She introduced me to this other student and told me that he was looking to get involved with the Big Idea Center, and right then the two of us expressed interest in teaming up for a future Big Idea Center competition. And the rest is history. He said, Babs introduced me to now who is one of my closest friends, and we are a team working on our own big idea as part of the Big Idea, Randall Family Big Idea competition. And I know some of you in this audience are gonna be judges tomorrow at our final round, so you may see that team. I'm not gonna tell you who they are, but you might figure it out. Another big part of what she created and what we continue to try to carry on is really developing and honing the skills, experiences, mindsets that lead to success, but in many different ways. You know, innovation and entrepreneurship, as everybody in this audience knows, is a difficult thing. It takes a lot of grit, a lot of determination, a lot of tough love, a lot of support, but it doesn't necessarily mean you need to be a cheerleader in a way that just pats you on the head. Babs is not a pat you on the head kind of person, as most of you probably know. She is a tough love kind of person, but in the best way. So here are some stories around that. In the Randall Family Big Idea competition, which is our largest and biggest competition, which has been going on now this is our 14th year, by the way, she really turned that into something that created a 3-month gauntlet that still stands out, this is a student language, as the most educational and rigorous business plan competition that I've ever been involved in. It gave me an outlet to explore the other aspects of my idea beyond just engineering, and Babs also made it a requirement that we form an interdisciplinary team for the competition, and that team still leads our company to today, and that's somebody who's graduated from us since. Another person states this: for myself and our team, Babs was a driving force in our development. She forced us out of our comfort zone, made us face very hard questions. She encouraged us to challenge every single assumption we had, which put us in a much better position when the time came to pursue funding. And she always made sure to provide support and encouragement along the way, however. And the best metaphor I can continue to use to describe Babs and her programming is that sometimes it makes us take a leap overboard, but Babs would always be the first to throw us a life preserver, and that's the best type of mentor you can ask for. Another person. I know for a fact that without Babs, we wouldn't have been in a position to pursue our idea upon graduation, and I cannot say enough about how positive Babs was for my personal college and professional life. She's also a fierce advocate for students and student innovation and student entrepreneurs. A couple of other comments here. Babs is good at striking a balance between telling you how it is and not in a demoralizing way, but she built an environment conducive to learning and failing, but not catastrophically. And for that, we are very grateful. A connector of budding entrepreneurs to opportunity, she was always willing to scour her network for someone that she believed may add value to our startup journey. And her connections that led to other connections 5 times along the path led us to great things in validating and continuing to hone our business model and value proposition across a wide variety of stakeholders. And without Babs, the last 5 years of my life would have been very, very different. Another student said, our company just wouldn't exist without Babs and the programming that she built. Coming into college, I wasn't thinking about starting a company, but Babs worked to reach everyone with the opportunity of entrepreneurship, even the people who weren't looking for it. She does have a passion for students, and this particular quote from a student just sort of encapsulates that. Her excitement is infectious, and she was always on our side. And I would say I've seen that demonstrated time and time again with any student who stepped into this space. And then overall, really, Babs is a fierce advocate for Pittsburgh, for startups, and for young people trying to make a difference. Her passion is contagious, and with it, she has helped to launch so many startups and careers. And these are students that are recognizing this in her, not just in what they did for her. But here's something that I think sort of sums it up the most. The thing I want people to know about Babs is that, and this is again from a student, is that in a field often focused on local or national notoriety, and that is finding or founding the new company that everyone is talking about, Babs was always most interested in the good of people with whom she worked. She challenged people, invested in people, exhorted and encouraged people to find a reason to win. She understood that most companies aren't going to make it, and she never put her own reputation above the people she nurtured. She taught us that if you're trying to create a people and a culture of innovation, you have to love people more than the companies that you're trying to support and help. And that's the type of impact that we're trying to carry on at the Big Idea Center, and really what we're all about. And it really is a legacy that I have the privilege to carry forward and build upon. And as Mike said, Babs, Babs left undoubtedly very, very, very large shoes to fill, but I'm honored and privileged to be able to try to do that. And a really one of the really, again, from a grit and determination standpoint and what it takes to be entrepreneurial and do all of the things that Babs has done, among many things that she's accomplished, but one of the things that's kind of the most remarkable and the most indicative of an entrepreneurial spirit is that spirit of hers survived inside of a 230-year-old plus institution called the University of Pittsburgh that, like any other institution of higher education, are slow to move, are slow to change, are slow to innovate. But because of that undying spirit and her dogged commitment to student innovation and entrepreneurs, I'm excited to say we're very shortly opening the new Big Idea Center, a new facility dedicated to student innovation and entrepreneurship at the University of Pittsburgh. And it's a very tangible commitment by the university and visible commitment of the university to demonstrate their commitment now of how important innovation and entrepreneurship are to our students. And, that is the place of possibilities. And I think that's what Babs has created, that no matter what discipline you're from across the university, whether you're a freshman or a postdoc, there is a place for you to step in and kind of find out and explore, experience, and realize sort of the world of possibilities that open up for you when you sort of step into this world called innovation and entrepreneurship. And, could go on about what Babs has done, but the impact that she's created is something that thousands of students have passed through what she created in her time with Pitt, and that's just the starting point. There's much more to come. So raise your glass. Here's to Babs, and honored to be able to speak on her behalf. We miss you, lady.
Thank you, Rhonda and Mike. As it was stated, Babs couldn't be here tonight because she's probably having more fun than even we are on her boat in the Bahamas. So she did record a short video accepting her award. So we'll play that now.
Hello, PVCA board members, members of the fabulous Pittsburgh entrepreneurial community. You all know me, I'm Babs Carrier, and I am very pleased and very honored to be awarded the Impact Award this year. I'm also kind of amazed because Kelly first contacted me a couple of years ago about this, as well as Mike Matisik, who I believe is responsible, and therefore it's his fault for nominating me. And of course, that was the spring of COVID hitting. So it's almost funny that it's 2 years later. So much has changed for me. I'll tell you a little bit about that. But I am honored by the award altogether. I'm very pleased and really flattered in so many ways. You guys all know I am passionate about entrepreneurship. I've given over the bulk of my adult life to helping first-time entrepreneurs kind of get the message and get on with it and do it, because they are the leaders of tomorrow. They are also the change makers of the world. And given everything that's happened in my entire life, boy, we still need entrepreneurs. We still need those change makers, because we've got lots of things we got to fix. And that's how it's done, through technology, through innovation, through entrepreneurship, through startups, through grit and determination. And I've tried to imbue my professional career and entrepreneurship with those qualities, because I think that's what everybody needs. And I've been very privileged that I've been able to help some of the most wonderful entrepreneurs get started. So I like to think about the students of mine from Carnegie Mellon University and University of Pittsburgh and other places that have gone on and started companies, and some have done super well. Some of them have not, but they roll right over and start it again. And so it's been an amazing privilege to work with people who are passionate, like I am, about this field. It's been so special. And to be awarded the Impact Award, I think for me is extraordinarily special and very meaningful, because I went into university entrepreneurship specifically because I kind of have the teaching gene. And I felt like I could help others do this. And I could do that well. And therefore, I've really devoted the bulk of my career for the last 20 years to creating that kind of impact. I don't know whether I could have articulated it back then, but that's really what motivated me to kind of get up in the morning and work all day and then go to bed at night knowing that I was going to get up in the morning and do it all again, because the opportunity to create impact is a one-to-many kind of experience. And I don't know how many people ever really get to experience that from an action and a set of tasks and activities that you do, that you can impact others in very meaningful ways that can change their lives and the lives of others. And that's an amazing experience, and it's an amazing privilege, and one that humbles me to think about it. And the fact that the Pittsburgh Venture Capital Association is awarding me the Impact Award, nothing could be closer to my heart than that. I want to thank Mike Matisik of Idea Foundry for nominating me and for being a supporter for all these years of everything that I have endeavored to do, some of them successfully and some of them not successfully. And he's going to speak on my behalf. And also Rhonda Schultz. Rhonda Schultz, who now is the director of the Big Idea Center, which I am the proud founding director of at University of Pittsburgh. And I've known Rhonda also a long time. And I want to thank her for stepping up and being able to speak on my behalf. As you guys all know, I started a company with my co-founder and others, Tom Petziger and some others, a long time ago that's just coming to fruition. We have really, really, really great news that's going to impact a lot of people in the Pittsburgh community, which is a good thing. And I spent a long time helping to build the entrepreneurial ecosystem at Carnegie Mellon University through Project Olympus and the Don Jones Center for Entrepreneurship, which is now, of course, the Swartz Center for Entrepreneurship. And then, of course, moved over to the University of Pittsburgh, where not only did I help to build it, I helped to create the ecosystem that is now embraced, I think, campus-wide at the University of Pittsburgh. And thanks to a donor, Bob Randall, we have the Big Idea Center, which has been 3 years in existence now, and now run by Rhonda Schultz. So it's my privilege and my honor to accept the award, and I thank you. I just want to talk for a second about my background. I meant my literal background. This is not a Zoom background. This is my actual where I am. Many of you know I retired at the end of August, and my husband and I sailed away in early November. We are in the Bahamas. We've sailed just under 2,000 miles to get here, all the way down from the Chesapeake to Florida. And we are having the next set of challenges in the Caribbean. It's been an absolutely awesome experience. And when this award dinner is happening, it's of course April, so hopefully the weather is beautiful, but I have to tell you, I'm in 79-degree weather with 79-degree water and beautiful colors, wearing a sundress. And about ready to put on my sunglasses. So that's where I am, and beaming to you from afar, all the best wishes that I can muster for the PVCA, for the board members, for all the supporters and all of the entrepreneurs in the Pittsburgh region and beyond. Thank you very much.
Congrats, Babs. That's pretty cool. You can see the boat rock. I'd like to bring to the stage our next presenter, Hank Saferstein, who will co-introduce tonight's winner of the 2022 Outstanding Entrepreneur Award to Dr. Susan Catalano, who currently serves as the Chief Scientific Officer of Kodo Biotherapeutics.
So you all know how dangerous it is to give me a mic in front of all these people, but first of all, thank you for allowing me the opportunity to spend a few minutes talking about Susan and talking about Cognition and why I think this is a fantastic person for this award. PVCA, thank you, and all the supporters of this ecosystem that we've worked in for so many years. But I've had the distinct privilege of working with Susan for 12 years as her chief executive officer when she was the chief science officer of Cognition. I met her in 2007 when she came to Pittsburgh to start a company and was looking for economic development support. I was newly minted at the PLSG as an EIR, and we came together and decided that it would be a great venture to work together. But more importantly, after 15 years, still consider her a very, very good friend, almost my best friend. And she jokes that I'm the little brother that she never had, so that's always a good thing. So I've worked in the business of biotech for 32 years. I can't believe that's that long. And I've interacted, I think many of you know, with so many entrepreneurs. And these people have sacrificed their lives, their careers, for the pursuit of new therapies that could change the lives of so many people, so many families, and so many patients. And this has been really the driving force for why I've been interested in doing what I'm doing, and particularly for working with Susan, because in many respects, she represents the epitome of both a scientist and an entrepreneur. And from the very beginning, when we first met, I could tell that she was serious about the business of developing new therapeutics for Alzheimer's disease. So this idea of developing new drugs, changing the lives of patients, I mean, we all talk about it. We're all in this industry together. But it's different for everyone. So there's folks who pursue this because they want to ring the bell on NASDAQ, or they want to be named CEO or CSO, or they want to, drive a fancy car, or, open up the bio conference, right? There's many reasons why you do what you do here. But, for working with Susan, the thing that really struck me the most is what I would call purity of purpose. So it's not to her about the fame. It's not about the fortune. It's not about the IPO or the title, right? It's about truly developing new medicines for people who need them, right? So that's like, to me, the purity of purpose. And that's why working with her was such an honor and such a privilege. So from the very beginning, when we met, the initial seed capital for Cognition came from PLSG and Innovation Works, and we had a shell of a lab. It was a shell. It was just an empty space. And weekends, Susan would be over there. I'd come and join her periodically, and she'd be on her hands and knees screwing the screws into the lab benches that would then create these discoveries. And I have to tell you, it was shocking to me, right? Because, here's my chief science officer, and she's literally building the lab. But she used to joke, I could fix anything with a rubber band and a paper clip, and it's absolutely true. So she built that lab from the ground up. And then we had to find the people to staff the lab, right? We had to find scientists to do the research. And this wasn't going to be a garage band, right? This was going to be an industry standard screening operation. We were going to be drug hunters, and we were going to find therapeutics for Alzheimer's disease. So it had to be the best of the best. And as most of us know, it's hard to find those kind of people in Pittsburgh. But we found them. Some of them are seated here today. And Susan and the team built piece by piece, person by person, this company. And I was privileged to watch it and help support it. And I remember one particularly grueling day where at the end of the lab meeting, I came in and I thought, wow, these people should just go home. It's like 5:30 or 6, and they were excited. And some of the lab folks said, if this drug gets approved, we're going to get the chemical structure tattooed on our wrist. So I was like, that's a team, right? Right? Not a butterfly, not a Saturn star, the drug on their wrist. And I still to this day will hold you to that, Kelsey. So So Susan's purity of purpose was far beyond the lab. We traveled together around the world, country and the world, raising money, and this was no small feat. It was 2007, 2008, 2009. Therapeutics and Alzheimer's were failing every day, and we were trying to develop a new one and convince investors to invest in our company. And it was grueling. It was, small checks, hundreds of people trying to bring everyone together. And I traveled with Susan, through airports, through train stations, and when we weren't pitching to investors, she was asking me about the business of science. So it's 10:30, 11, 12 at night. We're delayed at JFK, which, as you know, is a nightmare. And she's like, "Well, what about cap tables?" And and she's just sponging up the business of science. So we not only had a scientific innovator and entrepreneur, but we had someone who just had to learn about the business of science. And I was, again, fortunate enough to have the opportunity to share what I knew and to bring other people together. So at the end of this trip, we raised about $45 million in equity financing and a significant amount of capital in non-dilutive financing, which I will talk to you about next. Because aside from the road shows and raising money, Susan used to call something the long game, which was the NIH, public-private partnerships. And I can remember very early on, we're like, that's the only way to fund this. We have to get people who want to make money and people who want to change the world together. And we'll do it public-private. So we started applying for grants. They started applying for grants. Some of them didn't even get scored, right? So most people would be like, well, they don't understand my science. I'm just going to move on. No. So Susan would schedule calls with the program directors at these institutes to step through the criteria and the responses on the grant, point by point, issue by issue, and say, how do we make this better? How do we become grant fundable? And so over time, we started to move the needle. And I remember one very challenging meeting where we both got in the car and drove to Bethesda and sat down at a table with the program managers at NIA, National Institute of Aging. And it was sort of a Mexican standoff of sorts. We were not leaving there without funding. And again, it was Susan's purity of purpose, where we walked out of there and, not to get into the details, but it was clear that they were going to fund this application. And it was the first of what became $160 million in non-dilutive funding that Susan would attract from the NIH. And it wasn't a gift, and it wasn't a ruse. It was purity of purpose. The NIH wanted new drugs. Obamacare and the Alzheimer's Act said we need new therapeutics, and we were going to deliver. And so that was the message, and they got it, and we became fundable. And at one point in time, I think Cognition was the 4th largest recipient of NIH funding in Pennsylvania. So pretty significant for a small company like that. But I do want to share one quick story with you about that, the funding and the fundraising, which was at one particularly brutal trip where we were traveling through U.S. and then Canada and then back down through the U.S. and we were pitching to different angel groups, and it was brutal, staying in horrible places because it was cheap. And Susan likes to quote from Star Trek every now and again, and she said, "A vital mission, impossible odds, and a ruthless enemy. What more could we ask for? I tell you, I feel young again," right? So, even in the disparity of fundraising, where it was clear we just couldn't find the funding for this Alzheimer's program, she still found the way to motivate herself and motivate her team. So, kudos to Susan. So, I've written down a lot of things, and I've kind of gone through them, but I do want to say that one of the most rewarding milestones for anyone developing a drug is actually to put into human beings, right? So, I mean, I can count it on two hands, people who have discovered a drug on a bench and actually put that drug into human beings, right? And so most people would say, oh, got there, I got my regulatory filings going, and we're going to put this drug into humans and see how it goes. Susan had to go to Melbourne, Australia. She would not let this first person be dosed with this drug without being there. So she flew God knows how many hours to sit there and to watch that patient, that subject get dosed, right? Not for notoriety, no one told you to do that. You didn't have to do that, because she would be damned if her purity of purpose would be contaminated by something bad happening to that first subject. So all the way to Australia, thankfully everything happened and it was good, and we were able to dose the patients and the subjects, and that was a very successful study. But again, most people would have just said, we're there, let's move on. But she had to go there and she had to see that patient dosed. So there's many, many things I can share with you, having traveled and spent so much time with Susan. But I just want to say, for all the entrepreneurs, investors, and public servants and company managers, I think the message is, if you truly want to be in the business of discovering new drugs and changing the lives of people, you have to understand that it's the purity of purpose that is the key element. And whether you win or lose, whether the drug makes it or not, because we can't control the biology of human beings or the pharmacology of your drug, but if you win or lose, if you have that purity of purpose, that's what you want to do. It's not, making a lot of money. You want to get that drug and you want to change the lives of people, you will be successful. So tonight, I am truly honored to take this time and talk to you about Susan and to recognize her for the Outstanding Entrepreneur Award for the PVCA. I can think of no one more well-suited, no one who deserves it more than Susan. And again, thank you for everyone for allowing me this opportunity. And I just want to invite Rich Lunak up to the stage to say his words. Thank you.
Thanks, Hank. Wow, this is a really incredible award for anybody to receive. And I've been part of this entrepreneurial community for over 30 years. And I can tell you over the years, just an amazing list of people like Jerry McGinnis, Steve Howman, Chris Robbins, Ron Bianchini, and so many more have won this award. And Susan is a very fitting recipient of tonight's Entrepreneur of the Year award. Susan obviously shares a lot with many of these past winners, but I wanted to talk to you about what I think makes her special and unique, and why she's even that much more deserving of this award. First of all, as Hank eloquently talked about, I'm hard-pressed to think of another startup that relied so singularly on the talents of a single individual. Over the last 3 years, we averaged, I think, 75 new investments a year, and probably see close to 1,000 companies at InnovationWorks. So I speak from a lot of experience. And, Susan's technical and scientific skills were really incredible. There's a saying for software startups a lot of times, fake it till you make it. Let me tell you, in a biopharmaceutical company, there is no faking the science, and there is no faking the science to secure 120 plus million, or whatever the number is, from NIH when you're, have a jury of reviewers with the best scientific minds in this country. And, you know, in Susan's case, right, this is a company that when they first set out did not have a targeted molecule and was really designing new experiments to test novel drug candidates, and then also trying to validate a novel central pathway that led to, you know, these breakdowns in the nervous system. And, you know, without Susan's talents, screwing together those benches and leading the discovery, preclinicals, and ultimately the clinical processes for Cognition, it would not have been successful. Secondly, I think Susan is so much more than a chief science officer. As Hank mentioned, I think she was the heart and soul of this company, and as comfortable in the lab as she was in the boardroom, and in so many tremendous situations. And I can remember, for example, when the team came in for their first investment at InnovationWorks, it is probably the earliest we've ever invested in a therapeutics company. Typically, these companies have done tons of research in a university environment, have identified, you know, their targeted compounds and lots of data coming in. And in this case, we were relying on this scientific team to deliver. And you know, Susan instilled such confidence, whether you had a PhD in biology or chemistry to walk through, or were a layman, just broke things down in the simplest of terms, and then hit milestone after milestone after milestone to ensure that the company met follow-on investments and secured even more money. The chairman of InnovationWorks board, Catherine Mott, who's also the founder and managing partner of Blue Tree Capital Group, had this to say about Susan's abilities in this manner. Susan's success in raising capital can be attributed to her ability to know her audience in order to speak to them. She could easily facilitate an investor discussion, whether questions came from someone with a scientific background or someone with no scientific background or someone with deep expertise. Her calm, steady ability to lead was a strength for her team and ever present in all she accomplished. Susan is a model founder. I think that's so true about Susan. Third, you know, when you're investing in a company, particularly at those early stages, you know, you like them to be great people that you enjoy working with. And Susan was that in spades. She was humble, had a hard working ethic, tremendous integrity, and probably a thing that stood out to me was how proud, unabashedly proud she was of Pittsburgh. You know, as a transplant from California into our region, Susan never failed to talk about the support she got from organizations like the PLSG or InnovationWorks years and years after we supported and invested her. And she always gave back to the community, whether it was mentoring younger entrepreneurs, leading women in bio events, attending bio breakfasts, or even one or two of these holiday ugly sweater parties that I was fortunate enough to attend. And we really owe you, Susan, a debt of gratitude for what you've done for Pittsburgh. You really have, I think, Pittsburgh DNA in your bones, and you know, more Pittsburgh than the black and gold I'm wearing here on this stage. So for all these reasons and more, I think she's so deserving of this award. So please welcome Susan to the stage for the Entrepreneurial Leader Award.
Okay, so as you can see from this, I prepared a few remarks. And hopefully we can go through that quickly before we get to the incriminating photographs. So I want to thank the Pittsburgh Venture Capital Association for this award. It's such an honor. It really is. Thanks to Mike and the board members. It's really an honor to be sharing the stage with these two amazing women. It really is something. So there's a slideshow behind me. I'm going to go through real quick. Fortunately, you've already eaten, which is good. So we did indeed go all the way to an IPO. So from an idea in my head all the way to an IPO. So Cognition is a company that I co-founded to discover a drug that was capable of stopping Alzheimer's disease, a cause that I felt very passionate about. So this slide shows, let's see, pointing it right? Okay, this slide shows Cognition by the numbers. And so over the 14 years that I served as the Chief Science Officer and member of the Board of Directors, we managed to go all that distance to over $40 million of investor funding, more than $120 million of competitive NIH peer-reviewed grants, and a drug in multiple phase 2 clinical trials in a full development package for disease modification and Alzheimer's disease. And I have the honor of not having to read you a very long list of people that were instrumental in all of this, because they're all acknowledged in print in that chapter. That was very important to me to really get the whole list, because my gratitude knows no bounds. And I owe so much to so many people. I will mention a few of the folks tonight. First and foremost, the founding scientists at Cognition actually did all the hard work to discover and develop the drug and its analogs. They went once more into the breach again and again, and their names are listed as co-authors on these publications. So I'd like you all to please stand up and take a bow. Cognition Therapeutics team. And we certainly wouldn't have managed what we did without, these are all of our list of publications, and here's the patents. We wouldn't have managed that without Ray Miller and his very talented team. So thank you very much, Ray, and our amazing medicinal chemists, including co-founder Gil Richton and Gary Look, who produced an amazing set of starting materials, which you're looking at as the crystals of the very first prototypical drugs, the prototypes for the drugs. And they iteratively optimized them and ultimately turned it into that pill right there, that white powder, which is the drug that went into humans on September 14th, 2015 in Melbourne, Australia, which was, as Hank said, not too many scientists get to take that journey over their lifetime, and it was extremely moving to be there bedside for that first administration. So we had an amazing group of advisors, and you can see some of them here. We configured the first community of scientists to gather around this particular target, which is a really big deal for scientists. And we actually got a lot of really positive press coverage from the scientific press. So this is the folks who do a really great job of informing other scientists what's happening. So that's a pretty big deal as well. And we had the very good fortune, as you heard, to get quite a lot of awards, not only for the National Institute on Aging, but the National Institute of Neurological Diseases and Stroke, the Michael J. Fox Foundation, and the Alzheimer's Drug Discovery Foundation. So these are all peer-reviewed grants, and that means that your peers, other scientists, are actually hold your science in high enough regard to actually give you this funding, and that's a pretty big vote of confidence. So the journey started in 2007. These are the founders. So myself, Tony Giordano, Franz Hefty, and Gil Richton started the company. And I was out in California and the time was looking for where to put it, and we actually chose Pittsburgh because it's just that fantastic. And it's never stopped giving and delivering and being that fantastic. You could see that's the picture. There's Hank when we actually signed the first documents. John Manzetti was a very early believer in what we did and really took a chance on that new entrepreneur coming to town. And then Rich and the team at IW, what can I say? They were unbelievably supportive in what we did. So you saw some of these. The press was really very kind to us over the years, giving us a lot of coverage, as they do to a lot of early startup companies, and it really helps get your name out there. We didn't expect to really come across the Great Depression so early in our career. So the company was very small, had just started out, and the bottom dropped out of the economy. And that was a really tough time. But we made it through, as did a number of other companies. It certainly made us better. And a big part of that was Pittsburgh. The ability to start and grow a company here and build it with a lot of neuroscience talent, which we have here in Pittsburgh, at a low cost of operations and a low cost of living for the folks who work at the company. All of that's a magic combination that, to this day, I think is really important. We continue to be successful with our fundraising and with the press coverage that we got. We were awarded the Villalobos Award by the Tech Coast Angels and their peers at the Angel Capital Association meeting. Golden Seeds, and another early supporter, actually, was able to nominate us for the Winning Women Award at the Ernst & Young in 2015. And then we had a big financing round that allowed us to get into the clinic. So I'd like to just finish by thanking the founding board of directors of Cognition. That would be Mr. Robert Galis of Ogden Cap, a Pittsburgh native or Western Pennsylvania native, Franz Hefty, Erwin Shearer, Aaron Fletcher of BIOS Partners, Nana Jane, and Peggy Wallace of Golden Seeds, and Mr. Mark Breedlove, also Pittsburgh, and the other investors like the Tippins family, Blue Tree Allied Angels, and Catherine. Thank you so much for your support over the years, and thanks to all of the angel groups. So that would be Golden Seeds, Cowtown Angels, BIOS Partners, Ariel Houston Angel Network, Maine Angels, Scale Investors, Tech Coast Angels, and I'm probably missing some of them in all of that as well. So there's a lot of other folks to thank as part of this, and I think the next chapter of my career is beginning. It's an innovative gene therapy chemogenetics company, and I look forward to continuing the mission of leveraging that position to bring the capital back to Pittsburgh and to get the Pittsburgh health innovation community and ecosystem supported. So finally, I do want to say to the patients and their caregivers and their family members all over the world who volunteered for our trials. We couldn't do it without them. In the chapter, I say, you never left our thoughts for a minute, and you should rest assured we did everything humanly possible to get you this therapy as fast as our resources allowed. So thank you, and thank you, Pittsburgh. Thanks to the PVCA. Thank you, Hank and Rich, for that absolutely lovely introduction. Thank you all for your support.
So, for this evening's final award, I'd like to welcome Alice Green, who will be one of the 3 introducers for this year's winner of the 2022 Lifetime Achievement Award, Yvonne Campos, president of the Next Act Fund.
So smart, but also how gorgeous, right? Oh my God. Good evening. My name's Alice Green. I'm very pleased to be here, and I have the honor of knowing Yvonne Campos since 1991, when I first moved to Pittsburgh. I was a newcomer looking to network, and thus it was inevitable that one of my first and what proved to be my most enduring contact would be with Yvonne. Yvonne practices what we might call radical mentorship, persistently making herself available to friends, colleagues, and new acquaintances alike. She is a gravitational force to which countless numbers of those who are looking for inspiration, inclusion, and support have found themselves drawn. I found Yvonne at Campos, having left a journalism career back in New York. This was like pre-internet. So I didn't know what to do, and so I was considering pursuing a degree in market research. Yvonne gave me audience for an informational interview and hired me before it was over. This was before she learned to hire slow and fire fast. I hope my joining the staff wasn't part of that learning for her. I had no experience in market research, but as Yvonne says, how hard can it be? Of course, it is hard, and Yvonne slaved and made sacrifices as a true young entrepreneur to create Campos. She had had an early career in Texas producing bilingual education and parenting materials, but a market research firm that her firm had hired, Mark Research, stole her away to start a Pittsburgh office it was setting up to service Heinz. Her pay doubled to $24,000. And she got to work testing new product ideas with 150 women a day. When Mark left Pittsburgh, Yvonne at that point was married and had settled into the city, so she put out a shingle as a qualitative researcher running focus groups all over the country. Then that first big entrepreneurial leap, when you figure out that if you don't work, you don't get paid. So if you're crazy and fearless, you build a company. And in 1986, Campos was created. Her first client was Bob Appleby from Ketchum Communications, and he stayed her client for 30 years. Yvonne told me that in the early days, Bob would sometimes go on sales calls with her because prospects needed to see, quote, a gray-haired man to feel comfortable, which is sad, but ingenious. The longevity of Campos's client relationships would be among the company's many distinctions. The same was true of employees. We have two here tonight, among many Campos employees, that were with Yvonne pretty much from day one on, Barb Theobald and Kelly Best. I myself was among a number of Boomerang employees who are also here who left only to return again down the line. Kelly recently captured what lay behind that loyalty. Quote, Yvonne's strength lies in her ability to draw you into the realization that you are an integral part of helping to create something great, and the sense of pride that comes along with that. She said, the going wasn't always easy, but Yvonne was not afraid to show her vulnerability, which ultimately made us all root for her and the company's success. It's true the going wasn't always easy. There were years of expansion when, among other things, Campos added quantitative work and was the first in market to take surveys online. And at its height, Campos had 60 folks in the phone room and 18 professional staff, but it also almost went out of business twice. Building Campos was indeed hard, though even with two young daughters, one of whom is here with us tonight, who grew up alongside the company, Yvonne made it look easy, at least from the outside looking in, which I have learned is another lesson that Yvonne imparts to the many young entrepreneurs who have consulted her, which is look bigger than you are. She made sure everyone in town knew her name, right? Everyone in this room, I'm sure, knows Yvonne's name. Campos quickly became, and has remained to this day, a very well-known and highly regarded brand that was built on the foundation of Yvonne's smarts, her inexhaustible networking and sense of community, and her genuine warmth and charisma. I'm so grateful to have been a part of it and so pleased to be here tonight for the presentation of this Lifetime Achievement Award. Thank you very much. And now I'll call up Deb Acklin, the President and CEO of Wqed.
Hello, everyone. I am the aforementioned Deborah Acklin from Wqed, our beloved Pittsburgh Wqed, right? Yeah, good. You saw the applause sign flashing, right? So here goes. This is a roast, Yvonne, right? I'm kidding. My Yvonne Campos stories really pick up right where the lovely Alice's stories left off, at Campos Research. I used to be a cub producer at KDKA TV, and every once in a while, the Muckety Mucks let me sit in on our market research. And we always did the focus groups at Campos, and Yvonne always led them. She was impressive, a female CEO, a woman in business who actually owned the business, a woman the likes of which this 20-year-old had never seen before. Through that one-way glass, I witnessed her ability to relate to so many different personality types and opinions, one of the marks of a really skilled businesswoman. And we weren't testing small things. We were testing Wake Up with Larry Richard. Does anyone ever remember that? The first morning show on KDKA TV. She helped us decide who was the right male talent to anchor alongside the late, great Patty Burns. We launched Katie Live at 5 with Yvonne's help. Years later, I earned my stripes in Pittsburgh and Washington and landed at Wqed, and it took me about 90 seconds flat to invite Yvonne to join our community advisory board, and then another 90 seconds to invite her to join the governing board of directors and serve as one of my bosses. And that was when I really got to know my friend Yvonne. I learned that she is a fifth-generation Mexican-American, that she's from Austin, the cool part of Texas, that throughout her life, she's really living the example that her parents set forward. Her father was a famous radio DJ, now in the Texas Radio Music Hall of Fame, and her mother was a non-traditional college student who became a social worker for foster children. Yvonne saw them build their careers and their side hustles, DJing at nightclubs, managing their rental properties, even running a baton-twirling troupe. Yvonne can twirl a fire baton, by the way, and on top of all that work, her parents volunteered to help their community and their neighbors. Yvonne was a teacher then, as Alice referenced, and when the market research world discovered her, she moved to Pittsburgh with her Texas drawl and her ponytail and her long prairie skirts. And she really became a Pittsburgher. She jumped into the Three Rivers with both feet. As a matter of fact, this is the audience participation part, Yvonne is so Pittsburgh. See, I knew you'd come through for me. She's so Pittsburgh that she puts French fries on her breakfast cereal. She's so Pittsburgh that when she flies out of town, she brings a parking chair to the airport. She's so Pittsburgh that she puts Heinz ketchup on her Heinz ketchup. That's pretty good, Yins. Today, Yvonne embodies the philosophy of giving back. She became a community champion for Pittsburgh, and not so subtly, a champion and an example for other women. She was the first female president of the Downtown Pittsburgh Rotary. She founded not one but two chapters of the Women Presidents Organization, WPO, and welcomed this nonprofit female president into one of them. She chaired the Goodwill Board. She was vice chair of WQED's board, served on the Pittsburgh Hispanic Chamber of Commerce, the URA's Investment Committee, board member of Quantum, the YMCA, the Pittsburgh Dance Council, chair of the Kelly Strayhorn Theater. She's a director at Highmark, and on and on and on. Always, directly or indirectly, helping women, inspiring new businesses, and strengthening our community. And all this was before she started the Next Act Fund. It's not at all surprising, it all tracks. The Next Act Fund was Yvonne's perfect next act. Like many of you, I just can't quit Yvonne, and I don't want to. When she asks me to do something, something takes over my body and I hear myself saying yes. Maybe it's because she calls me doll or hun when she gives me my next assignment. I would literally march into battle behind Yvonne if she asked me to. And so when she asked me to speak on her behalf tonight, of course, I said yes. But I also want to say thank you. Thank you, Yvonne, for your friendship, for your humor, for your warmth, and for your welcoming, and for your obvious love of this place and these people that you and I have the deep privilege to serve. Now, what is an event in Pittsburgh without a quote from Mr. Rogers, right? That's a lame event, is what I would say. And so, Yvonne, I know that Fred had you in his heart, along with all of his neighbors, when he said, You've made this day a special day by just your being you. There's no person in the whole world like you, and I like you just the way you are. Love you, Yvonne. And now I'd like to bring Marion Lewis to the stage from Govenda. Thank you.
Okay. I will say this, Deb Acklin is a tough act to follow, but I will do my best. So nice to be here, and particularly to be in person. I can tell you that I think this is the first event I've been to in 2 years, and the first time I've worn heels. So if I look a little wobbly, that could be why. Thank you, Kelly. Thank you for the board of PVCA and for all the members for having this wonderful event and for honoring my good friend, Yvonne Campos. I can think of no one more deserving for this Lifetime Achievement Award. And Deb and Alice have told you a lot about her community work and about her work at Campos. So I thought that I might share a little bit with you about her importance to the women business owners and investors of this region. Jeanette Thomas, my co-founder, and I started our first company, the first of 4, back in 1991, as green as an entrepreneur can be. And we got out, started networking, meeting people, and everywhere that I went, people said, "You need to meet Yvonne Campos." And I heard it again and again and again. And I can't really remember where it was or how it was that we met, but I was blown away. I was totally in awe of this woman and thought, I hope that someday I can be like her. She was warm and welcoming. She was glad to share connections and experiences, and she confident and smart, just everything that an entrepreneur would want to be. And for a new entrepreneur like me, and this is when women were not common in the Pittsburgh area, she was a godsend. She was like that with every single woman that she met. And a lot of them, I can see her sitting in this audience tonight. She meant a lot to all of us. A few years after we met, Yvonne attended a conference for a newly formed national organization called Women's Presidents Organization. Deborah referred to that earlier. It was founded in 1997. It's now an international organization of dynamic and diverse women business leaders who tap into their collective insight to grow their businesses, to validate what they're doing, and to just to be challenged and to, to share. Yvonne fell in love with this organization at this conference, and she came back in typical Yvonne fashion and said, I think I'll bring this to Pittsburgh. And she did. She started the first WPO chapter, and within a couple years, she invited me to join, and you had to have some income requirements or revenue requirements to do that. And it was a game changer for me. And I've spoken to lots of women who were in WPO, and they all share the same story. I often say, I learned to become a real businesswoman in that WPO group. The relationships that I formed in that group are both personal and professional, and they are still the relationships that sustain me to this day. And for that, I thank Yvonne. It all started with her. WPO has now grown to 3 chapters in the Pittsburgh area and continues to mentor women. And there are hundreds of women that can thank Yvonne for getting them started on their journeys and helping them to grow their businesses. So Yvonne sold her business. She sold Campos Inc., exited, and of course, people were sitting right off into the sunset. But those of us who knew her best knew that that was not going to happen. And we didn't have to wait long to find out what she was going to do. I had co-founded Govenda with Jeanette Thomas back in 2013. And by 2014, it became clear that we needed to raise some money. And I had been a successful 3-time entrepreneur already and was shocked to find that people just weren't lining up to give me money. It was a little naive, but I still had lunch with Yvonne and I said, I don't know what's going on here, but I'm really having trouble raising money. And she said, well, hey, girl, we know people with money. Let's fix that. And so she did. Again, typical Yvonne. She went and reached out to a lot of our mutual friends and acquaintances and started an organization called NextAct Capital, which was formed purely to invest in that company for me. They were my first investors, and they opened the way for lots of other investments to come, including our friends from IW. That group joined us in 2 seed rounds and paved the way for other investments to follow. And it also, I think, planted the seed for what Yvonne was going to do next. And that was founding NextAct Fund, which is an angel fund that focused on women entrepreneurs. At the time, there was nothing like that in Pittsburgh. And I still think that maybe it is still the only one in Pittsburgh. It's just focused on women. And her goals were very clear from the very beginning. She wanted to create a group of women investors to become better educated in this investment class in angel investing. She wanted to provide a vehicle for them to increase their personal wealth, support women entrepreneurs through investment, and also to educate the next generation of young women entrepreneurs and investors. And I'm proud to say that I was one of the first investors in NextAct Fund. Even more proud to say that I was the first GoVenda, was the first portfolio company for NextAct Fund. And the fact that Yvonne was my friend cut me absolutely no slack in due diligence. And some of those people are sitting in this room tonight and they know what I'm talking about. I was the first that they invested in, but there were many, many more to follow. Cognition Therapeutics was one of those, and Susan Catalano is also a friend and colleague from my WPO days. Lots of good people came out of that. NextAct Fund created all the goals that I outlined, as well as expanding our networks, everybody that was involved in it, and our areas of expertise. I think you also, on the slides that were shown behind Deb, she was recently honored. She won the Forbes 50 over 50 award in the finance category for her efforts in founding and growing NextAct Fund. Couldn't be more proud of you. So in closing, I guess you could say that I'm a Yvonne Campos superfan. Her accomplishments really speak for themselves. The rest of us who know her can speak to her honesty, her integrity, her kindness, and her commitment to making the world a better place. I have 2 favorite sayings. One of them is not Fred Rogers, but Maya Angelou often says, when people show you who they are, believe them the first time. And Yvonne shows us every single day in word and deed just how exceptional she is. And the second is from Marion Edelman of the Children's Defense Fund. You can't become what you can't see. So Yvonne has spent her whole life being a role model for women entrepreneurs and making sure that we are seen for ourselves and for generations to come. That's quite a legacy. Thank you, dear. Come on up.
Well, thank you very much. Let me do this a little bit. Thank you very much for this wonderful evening and this opportunity to be among so many friends and colleagues. I want to thank Kelly, where are you? Thank you so much for putting this together and doing this year after year and making this such a wonderful event. PVCA, thank you for being hosting this and making sure that we recognize all of the individuals that are involved in the venture capital arena and in entrepreneurial area. I want to congratulate Susan Catalano and Babs Carrier. These are 2 women that I admire, that are dear friends of mine, and that actually are the role models that we all look up to. Susan, like was mentioned earlier, was a member of WPO at one time, so I've known her for a long time and have been watching her grow her company, and so excited that we have a role model female Pittsburgh IPO. So there you go. Yeah. And Babs is a wonderful woman. We've been on many boards together for entrepreneurs and startup companies and so forth. But what's best about Babs is she's one of my best drinking buddies, basically. We both like our martinis, I must say. I was very pleased to learn about this Lifetime Achievement Award, okay? First of all, I thought, oh my goodness, what an honor. Isn't that the best thing that ever happened? Isn't that lovely? And then I think, uh-oh. What does that really mean? That really means that I'm getting old. That really means that I'm in my 75th year, and people think I'm done already. I just want you to know I'm noodling some new ideas. There's still more to come, so we may have to repeat this Lifetime Achievement Award in a few years. I want to thank my dear friends, Marion, Allison, Deb, for their lovely words. For a while there, I thought maybe I'd passed away. I wasn't sure. The way they were talking, I thought, am I still here? Maybe I'm not, I don't know. So it was kind of, and I did think about, with a Lifetime Achievement Award, I did think, well, you know, this is great. Then I can use that same material for when we do a memorial, when I need it, you know? We'll have the pictures, we'll have the talk, this will be great, okay? But the gals did an exceptional job, an absolutely exceptional job. I'd like to introduce a few of my special guests this evening. I want to start with my daughter, Eva Rebeck, and her husband, David Hazelwood. David, stand up, David. I love my son-in-law. And so happy that they could be here with me tonight. Makes this evening even better. I have a daughter, my younger daughter, Anna, was not able to come tonight. She's in rehearsals for production at Juilliard. She teaches there, and we just could not make the schedule work. So, but Anna, you're missed, and we love you, and we wish that you were here. I want to go back and just, you saw some of these pictures, and you saw this baby, you know, this baby that keeps popping up. Well, I'm a grandmother for the first time, so I want to thank Eva and David for this wonderful gift, this amazing gift that I got this past year. She's 9 months old, almost 10 months old. It's the best gift I've ever had in my whole life. And I'm so sad to say, no, I'm not sad, but it is embarrassing to say I have turned into one of those grandmothers, you know, that anybody, I'm sheer strangers on the street, I stop, would you like to see a picture of my grandchild? My Uber driver in New York City, I'm sharing pictures of Sophia with the Uber driver, for Pete's sake, in New York City. So they were pretty sensitive in the beginning about sharing anything on Facebook, so I had no other option but then to go and share in person with everybody I knew. So she is the best thing. She's at the house right now with babysitters. They're going to be here a few days. And my heart is full with this baby, and my cup runneth over when I think of her. And I also have some friends here from Next Act Fund, from WPO, and from Campos, Inc. And in addition to that, we'll point these people out. I can't believe Campos, Inc. is well represented tonight over there at that table. Woohoo! But I also wanted to mention that I have my dear friend and my lifetime accountant, Greg Luther, and his wife, Dr. Karen Luther, that are right over here at this table. Greg started with me on day one. I knew him before he knew Karen. Actually, I met Karen when they were dating. I knew when they got engaged. I went to the wedding, and Karen often says, I knew when I said yes to Greg, I was saying yes to Yvonne and Greg. And so they have been dear friends, and Greg, all he can do at me sometimes is just shake his head with the kinds of deals I'm doing and try to help me figure it out and do it better the next time. So Greg, appreciate everything, baby. Also at this table is my longtime friend and my attorney is Ralph Manning. And Ralph and I met through Rotary. I think you heard that I was participating in Rotary for many years. And he and I actually were co-chairs on the ethics conference for Rotary that they did for a number of years. And that's how we got to be friends and colleagues. And he became my attorney, and he has been by my side for all these years since then. So Ralph, so happy you can be here with me this evening. Yeah. You know, there's two people that are not here. I'm going to take this is a lifetime achievement thing, so I can take my time. So you just don't have to put up with it. But there's two people that are not here that have passed away. One was Ward Olander. And if you don't know, Ward Olander owned a lot of property in Pittsburgh. His company is still in business. His son, Lars, runs that company. He was our landlord at Campos, Inc. on 216 Boulevard of the Allies. And if it wasn't for that man, I would not be in business. He was my landlord. Think about Willie Nelson, okay? That's Ward, okay? He looks exactly like Willie Nelson. When his son took over, think about a prep school guy. And I thought, oh my God, I'm gonna have big problems with this prep school guy. But his son was equally as kind and has worked with me through the years at Campos. If it wasn't for Ward, I would be out of business because there were times in the business career of Campos where I could not pay the rent. I had to make a decision, pay my employees, pay the rent. And I would bring Ward in, and I'd open my books to him. I'd show him everything. I was very transparent with him from day one. And I'd say to him, Ward, here's what's happening. I can pay you, or I can pay my employees. What do you think I'm going to do? And he says, well, I guess you're going to pay your employees. I said, you're right. I said, I will pay you as soon as I can, and I will make it up to you. He worked with me more than once in that way throughout my career and I was there almost 30 years. We started out with 3/4 of a floor, and I would talk him into giving me I don't want to I can't use that corner over there, and I don't want you to charge me for it. I just need this little side over here, and then when we grow in a little while, then I want to take that corner, and then I'll pay you for that. And he would work with me. I have no idea why, but he would work with me. And I did that for several floors. We ended up having 4 floors in 216 Boulevard of the Allies, had a fabulous facility there and did great research there with a great team. And that team is here. Part of that team is here tonight. Kelly Best, raise your hand. Barb Theobald, Kevin Edwards. Who else is there? Brian DeCecco is over there too. Brian didn't know what hit him when he joined our company, because we were mostly females, and Brian was as young. Now, he's still pretty young, but, he was really young when he joined us. He was the only guy, and so when we'd have our socials, he'd have to dance with all of us, And dancing was not his favorite thing. Let me tell you. You're going to have to come up here and dance in a minute. And Barb Theobald, Barb was probably my longest time employee. I think, Barb, you were with me the whole time, just about. Or was it Kelly or was it you? Oh, I had 2 longest time employees. This was great, and they worked with me through the thick and thin, through pay cuts, through fat times, and they were remarkable at the jobs that they did. And if it wasn't for the people that you work with that help you look at your vision and where you want to go, the leader has nothing. You have to have the people that will help you get there. Kevin was on one of those boomerang things. We had difficult decisions to make at Campos at different times. We had to terminate people. We had to downsize. And we had to let go of really great people sometimes. And what happened, this is what happened with Kevin. We had to let him go. I was tortured. He understood. We did that. He called me one day, says, Yvonne, I got to have a job. I can't, we had non-competes, right? And he says, this is all I do. That's all I know how to do. And he says, I have an opportunity to go work for a competitor. And I said, all right, go ahead. You go. You need to work. You need to pay your bills and all that. We ended up buying that company, and Kevin came back to us. So it worked out great. In the long run. But really, we had some amazing times at Campos. That was the first company, and I can't tell you the thousands of people that walked through there and that worked for me at one time or another. We had a phone room. Sometimes they worked for a day, last a day, sometimes we worked for 20 years. It was a sea of humanity that worked in the phone room. And the nice thing about a phone room is nobody has to see them, right? It's all just on voice. So we had a very unusual group of people that worked for us. Very talented, very smart, all the way from master's degrees, all the way down to GEDs, super detail-oriented, like geniuses. Other people had no people skills whatsoever. But this was a group. They were the factory floor for us. We could not have done our work without those individuals, and this team oversaw them. And they did a fantastic job in that way. One of the favorite things we used to do when we were together is we used to, we'd celebrate things, get together here and there. But it was, you would be surprised to know. And so we would all have to share something that the rest of the room would not. You'd be surprised to know that, and blah, 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 blah. And so what was really fun was we discovered that we actually had a car thief in our midst at one time. That we actually had a person that could recite all the capitals, all the states and all the capitals in order, alphabetically, in under 3 minutes. Under a minute? Oh, just a state. That was Barb's skill. I forgot. We had one person that actually had been with Playboy. Okay. So you find some really interesting things about people. Mine was always, I only spoke Spanish until I was 5 years old. Then when I had to go to first grade, I had to learn English because you were not allowed to speak Spanish at school. And so that was always mine. Nobody ever knew that. So that was really great. But we had a great time. So I'm so happy to see all of you guys and that you're here. I want to talk a little bit about Next Act Fund. And to tell you that is probably the best thing I've ever done. But it's built on Campos Inc. and the Women Presidents Organization. But the impact that Next Act Fund has had has been, I feel, and the feedback that I get is significant in creating a cohort of women in this region that are now fully comfortable and fully capable of being angel investors and are doing so. And we started that organization at the end of 2016, 2017. We have 61 units that we're invested in. We have invested in 29 direct investments, and we've invested in some additional funds, the Innova funds at Blue Tree. And I want to say that if it wasn't for Catherine Mott, Next Act Fund would not be here. So Catherine, I owe you big time. Big time, big time, big time. When the opportunity came to do this, she talked me into it because she says, Yvonne, I'll help you every step of the way. I will share what I know. I will share resources, share documents, what have you, and I'll help you every step of the way. And she absolutely did. We built Next Act Fund on the Tupperware party model. And that was going, every weekend, every night, whatever, going to someone's home, 5 or 6 women doing our pitch. Catherine would go with me on the first few pitches so that I could sort of see how it was all done. Then we took it over and did well. And we have had a tremendous success with that organization. And we built remember what someone said, I can't remember who it was, but to build the brand to represent you to be bigger than you really are. That's really the key. And Next Act Fund is that way also. And we have, one of the slides that there shows there, we made the national map of women funding sources. And this is our small fund here in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. So first and only women-focused fund in our region. So it was very exciting. The only reason that is successful, where is the Next Act Fund table? Where's Gina and them? There y'all are, all there, over there. Those are all women that are invested, they're fabulous, they're smart, and John is there too. John and Vic. Vic is there. We limited membership to Next Act Fund for males to 10%. So we have a few good men. I do want to mention Will Frederick was one of our top guys who was he was a male counterpart to Catherine Mott. But the way we did that is we had an investment committee and we created co-chairs. And we had 4 fabulous co-chairs for that investment committee. And if they would stand, Gina Calick, Margot Matuk, Kelly Scalota, and Teresa Whalen. Please stand up, women. It could not have been done without these women. They were fabulous. And the investment committee members, we have a number of people in the room that were members of the investment committee, and we're so grateful for their work. So, but without those 4 gals taking the leadership and making that happen and doing the due diligence and putting the processes in place, we would not be as successful as we are. Let me see. The other thing that happened from Next Act Fund, which was sort of a side thing, so it's a side surprise, many of our members actually got some wonderful business opportunities as a result of being involved with Next Act Fund. So that was even a gift that was unexpected. So we have women that are now overseeing companies, that are CEOs of companies within the portfolio or companies that came through us. We have women that are were on the national board. Kelly was on the national board of ACA at one point. So there was additional benefit to our women being so strong and doing such a great job, and in the fact that they were able to gain some opportunities. And I will tell you this, we started from near zero, in really knowing what the hell we were doing. But today, I would put our due diligence against any other fund, any other angel fund in the country. And that's how smart those women are. So very good job. Ronnie was on our, I see Ronnie over there. Ronnie was on our investment committee there, so I see you there. And next to Ronnie is Georgia Berner. And Georgia Berner is a WPO member. And when I was doing the pony show that you go around and talk, this is when I was testing the concept of whether I should do Next Act Fund. Georgia Berner was the first person that said to me, count me in, I'm in. So she was my very, very first investor. So thank you, Georgia. Appreciate that, dear. Yeah. Okay. All right. And then as far as WPO is concerned, let's see. WPO is an amazing organization, Women Presidents Organization. You have chapters across the world, 20 members, non-competing companies, non-competing industries. You have to have revenues, a service company has to have revenues of $1 million. If you're a product-oriented company, you have to have revenues of over $2 million. The chapters in Pittsburgh had revenues between $1 million and about 35 million was the size of those companies. When I first started those chapters, and I did my research, I was a researcher at heart, so I did research on all of these things before I moved forward, to find out whether there were actually businesses that would qualify to become part of a WPO chapter in this area. And so I did some research. I had access to some data that, because of the research company I ran, that wasn't easily accessible. But I would ask business people around the place, how many women do you think run businesses that have revenues over $1 million in our area? Well, I don't know. I don't know very many. I don't know, 10, 12, 17, something like that. There were 227 women-run businesses with revenues over $1 million at that time. And this was 30 years ago. This was 30 years ago, and we didn't even know it. And so WPO was another vehicle to identify these women and give them some voice and bring them to the forefront. And as one of our speakers said, if you can't see it, you can't be it, in particular for young women, to know that they can do these things. So WPO is a hoot. We have had great chapters. We have new chapter chairs now that have taken over WPO, and we have 3 chapters now. And as a matter of fact, I'm going in May to the WPO annual conference because it's the 25th anniversary of WPO, and they're bringing all the chapter chairs that have participated over the years in. And I have to say, the friendships that I have now, my dearest girlfriends now, women friends, are all probably, most of them are a result of WPO and some of my business relationships. But I have another really great girlfriend that's here tonight, and her husband, Cindy Siskowski. Where are you, Cindy? Where's Cindy? There she is, over there. Cindy and David over there. She is my kindergarten room mother partner, okay? When our kids were in kindergarten together, I was working like a maniac. I was like, let me put it this way. I'm never going to get award for the best mother of the year, but I am going to get best room mother of the year thanks to Cindy, because she and I hit it off very quickly at the beginning. And she loves to be in charge of all of these, the party in the room and the this and that and the Valentine's this and the blah, blah, blah. Well, I was too busy to worry about the details. She wanted to be in charge. And when she had to work with other moms, they would have to negotiate on all of these things, right? So when she and I connected, I said, you do it. I'm happy. Whatever you choose, I am happy. I love it. Purple, perfect. And I said, just tell me what time, where, how much money do I have to put up, and make sure I have it on my calendar. And so she and I did that for about 2 or 3 years, and we had the best rooms in the whole school, I think, Cindy, don't you think? So anyway, Cindy Siskowski and her husband, David, and they adopted, for this Texas gal and her 2 kids, they adopted us into the Siskowski and family, and we became part of their extended family. You know how Pittsburgh families have dinner every Sunday night together, and, they always do every holiday together, and 4th of July, and blah, blah, blah. Well, we were always there. So I cannot thank you enough, Cindy, for your friendship for all of these years, and I'm so happy that you're here today. Thank you very much. Yeah. I think that's about it. I know you're relieved. Okay. Let's see. The future. My last section, the future. I'm not done yet. Like I said, I have an idea that actually is going to put, all these dots connected for Next Act Fund. All the women I know, the women business owners, and then Next Act Fund. There's some opportunities of pulling and pushing some of those pieces together that I think are going to be remarkable in the next few years. Whether I do it or someone else does it, it's going to happen. But I will definitely be working with individuals, continue to work with individuals in Pittsburgh to continue to enhance the experience for women and women entrepreneurs in this marketplace. I will continue with my board participation and my commitments to the boards that I sit on. And I have great pleasure at this point in my life in collaborating with the younger women, in particular some very talented younger Latino women in this market that are going to be the next leaders in this market. So Natalie Nunez, right over here, raise your hand, Natalie. Everybody see you, she's fantastic. She's the executive director of Ascender. Melanie, where's Melanie? Melanie, where are you? Melanie's right here. Melanie Malloy, fantastic woman, head of the executive director of the Hispanic Chamber, doing a wonderful job, making us a very professional organization. Tara, where's Tara? Tara, right over there, Tara. Tara's an entrepreneur at heart, a social worker and a counselor, and has a darling daughter. And the other person I want to say to you that's going to be a leader in this community is Joseph Hall. Where are you, Joseph? There he is, right here. Joseph Hall is the new executive director at the Kelly Strayhorn Theater, of which I've been on the board for many years. So watch and see what they do is all I can say to you. So I want to thank you all from the bottom of my heart. I know it was sort of like maybe not so much business and mostly my life, but get over it, and that's kind of, that's just the way we're doing it. That's just the way we're doing it. It's been my pleasure to be part of Pittsburgh's business community for the last 100 years. Pittsburgh has become my home. I love it here. And I can actually say that Pittsburgh has gotten better every day that I've lived here. We still have a lot to do and a long way to go, but it has literally gotten better every day I've lived here. I tried to do my part to add value, to make a difference. Hopefully I've succeeded some. We have lots of work to do yet, but I say to the younger people in the room, I'm handing it over to you, okay? It's your time to move this region forward. And in closing, what I want to say is, if you have not yet been called an incorrigible, defiant woman, don't worry, there's still time. Thank you.
That's a great story, Yvonne. What a life. So that's the end of our program tonight, but congratulations again to three very deserving women, Babs, Susan, and Yvonne. So congratulations again. I'd like to again thank all the event sponsors for tonight. This wouldn't have been possible without you, so thank you. Also like to thank the staff here at the Fairmont. I think everyone would agree they've done a pretty nice job tonight, so thank you. And thank you all for joining us tonight. We hope to see you throughout the rest of the spring and the summer at other PVCA events, and safe travels home. So thank you for coming.